Now I want to introduce you to someone who is an absolutely amazing woman with a fantastic track record. She was the director of a Zimbabwean NGO, Inter-Country People's Aid, and also director of policy at the Aga Khan Foundation. When she was with the Princess Diana Trust, she headed it up and secured historic levels of support for an international treaty prohibiting the use of cluster weapons. She's currently on the board of Britain's National Lottery, and she's a trustee of the International Agency for the Prevention of Avoidable Blindness. Now, we came to know her, and she has set up for us a partnership for us, which is really one of our most prestigious. And it's one that we value highly, because this organization that she is now CEO, where she is now CEO, values leadership and young leadership just as much as we do. So the Queen's Young Leaders recognizes and celebrates people aged 18 to 29, I can't see, that's not how old I am, from across the Commonwealth, who are taking the lead in their communities and using their skills to transform lives. So what I would like to do, as we are in Canada, which is part of the Commonwealth, may I ask all of the delegates who come from the 53 Commonwealth countries to stand up, please. It's a really important organization in the world today. Would you please welcome the wonderful friend to One Young World, Dr. Astrid Bonfield, the CEO of Queen's Young Leaders. And all the other delegates, give the Commonwealth a great big cheer.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be here at One Young World, representing the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust and the Queen's Young Leaders Programme. So our session today is about the power of collaboration. And what we want to talk to you this morning is about how the Queen's Young Leaders Programme has made collaboration across the world possible in a way that's been transformative for the individuals concerned, but also for what they're able to achieve. So our mission at the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust is to mark and celebrate the over 60 years that the Queen has been head of the Commonwealth. And of course, the Commonwealth's 53 countries span every continent of the world. They're very diverse. And the population of the Commonwealth is young. Of the almost 2 billion people who live in the Commonwealth, over 60% are under the age of 30. Now, this means that we need the leadership of these young people to help shape the future for us all. So what could be more important for the Trust and our partners than to discover, celebrate, and support the Commonwealth's outstanding young leaders who are already making a real difference in their community, and who we expect to go on to achieve even greater things. That's the ambition of the Queen's Young Leaders Programme, which every year for 4 years is selecting 60 of the best young people from across the Commonwealth. So what does it mean to be a Queen's Young Leader? Well, it means coming to London to receive your award from Her Majesty the Queen and meeting David Beckham. But perhaps more importantly, it's about a leadership training course and mentoring, which helps people transform their works. But I think what has been most important about the Queen's Young Leader Programme has been this ability to make new connections across continents and cultures, bringing new dimensions and impact to the work. So we're 2 years into the programme, and I can truly say that meeting the Queen's Young Leaders and hearing what they've achieved, sometimes against extraordinary odds, has been a privilege and truly humbling. But with the connections they're making, what they can do in the future is more powerful still. To meet and work with other people from across the world, which is what we're doing here at this summit, to do more together than to what we can do alone, is a tremendous opportunity. So I've got 3 brilliant Queen's Young Leaders here with me today. We've got PJ from Sierra Leone, we've got Gunjan from Canada, and we've got Safia from the Maldives. And they represent the very, very best of what the Queen's Young Leaders Programme is about. They're here to tell you about their experiences and what the power of collaboration means to them, and at the end, to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Astrid. Hello, my name is PJ Cole, and I am the Executive Director of Lifeline AMI Project. It's good to be back at One Young World and to meet old faces and see new people. In 1996, confronted by the plight of child soldiers in Sierra Leone, my parents invited over 800 young people into our lives. All of them were victims of war. Pulling them out of the conflict and into our home, I shared my clothes, food, and parents with them. Although they had committed many atrocities, my father had a vision that with the right support, these young people will go on to be those who would rebuild the nation in years to come. Today, a group of these former child soldiers with whom I shared my life are standing shoulder to shoulder with me. Together, we're running 4 schools, a vocational training center, a safe home for disenfranchised young people. We're running businesses and working with farmers. Our vision at Lifeline AMI Projects, thank you. Our vision at Lifeline AMI Projects is audacious. We are on a mission to rebuild Sierra Leone. In 2014, I became aware of the Queen's Young Leaders program, and I decided to apply for it. The opportunity to train with Cambridge University, receive mentoring, and meeting Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was very exciting to me. But what ensued was actually a whirlwind of activities that totally blew me away. It enabled me and built my capacity and positioned Lifeline AMI Projects to intensify our impact and improve the services that we're delivering. During my year as a Queen's Young Leader, Sierra Leone was plagued with a deadly Ebola virus disease. Consequently, the economy deflated by 30%. This led to a state of emergency that almost brought our nation completely to its knees. Our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues were dying. Our community was under attack. Our vision to rebuild Sierra Leone was being tested. In response, we designed an Ebola education program which provided and equipped over 80,000 people with life-saving knowledge. We provided food, medical, and psychosocial support for 12,000 quarantined individuals. We Googled the plans of how to build an Ebola clinic and started building one. We mobilized the community. We worked with local councillors, chiefs, members of parliament, and brought young people together to fight a disease in our community. Different stakeholders took different roles. Some people cooked meals and brought them. Some people lent their skills as carpenters. Together, we persevered until help came through MEDAIR, and we ended up building a 20-bed Ebola clinic that treated 271 people. Faced with the tragic reality of Ebola, I was challenged to think about our vision and the future. This was difficult, but totally necessary, and in line with our ethos, which is to do what we have to do now for a better tomorrow. The support I received from the Queen's Young Leaders team helped me think strategically. We secured support from Comic Relief to expand our vocational training and to help young people set up their own businesses. We also looked to equip young and employed young people in Sierra Leone in the rural area to train them in business and farming skills. This will help them improve their produce, move them away from subsistence to commercial farming. I made really strong connections during my year as a Queen's Young Leader, and these relationships have helped move us on in realizing our vision. An example of this is a project that we currently are working on, which is to develop an ICT training facility which will provide ICT training for young people across 19 schools. It has been developed as a result of direct relationships I made during my time as a Queen's Young Leader. Through this project, we will improve education and equip young people for work and life in the 21st century. I've learned that collaboration is critical, In fact, relationships are more powerful than programs. Lifeline AMI Projects is an example of this. My father, a community leader working in Liberia, went to the UK to learn about pig farming in 1990, just before the war broke out in Liberia. Displaced and unable to fly back into the country, he met John Singleton, the founder of Lifeline Network International. The two of them became friends. John helped my father return to West Africa, where he reunited with my mother and me. By 1996, their friendship was so strong that when my father had the brilliant idea of inviting child soldiers into our home, John was there to collaborate with him. There's a proverb which says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. We're choosing to go far. Our mission to rebuild Sierra Leone depends on this. And the Queen's Young Leaders, and now the whole One Young World family, is joining us and helping us go further. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. That was excellent. You never fail to amaze me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gunjan, and I am so very delighted to be speaking with you today. These past few weeks have been especially special for me, not just because I get to be here and talk to all of you, but also because exactly 4 weeks ago was my very first day of medical school. Thank you. Yeah, congratulations and condolences from the doctors and the audiences. I remember first day sitting in the classroom surrounded by 140 other brilliant students from across Canada, ready to learn about the intricate details of human anatomy and treatment and diagnosis, and eventually help treat the patient of their illness. But instead, our professor shows us a 19th century painting with the words, "Who are you? Where do you come from? Where are you going?" Before I became a Queen's Young Leader, I think my answers to these questions were fairly straightforward. I was a 20-year-old student who strongly believed in reducing inequalities by empowering marginalized groups in the community to be their own advocates for change. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India, and I moved to Vancouver, Canada when I was 15. Now, the wonderful thing about being brand new to a different city is that you begin questioning things that are otherwise taken for granted. So for me, it was really striking to see one of the most beautiful and wealthy cities in Canada so starkly contrasted with the downtown East Side community, which is one of the most concentrated districts of poverty, illness, and addiction in North America. Almost 90% of the people that live here live in unstable housing. 1 in 3 suffer from mental health issues. And women, children, LGBTQ people, as well as seniors, continue to be at disproportionately high risk of poverty and exploitation. Over the past 6 years, I've had the wonderful privilege of working with and capturing the stories on film of a small subset of nonprofits that are working to take all of these bleak statistics and have made it their mission to really change them for the better. I've heard a lot of stories over the past 6 years from the nonprofits I've worked with. Some of these stories were heartbreaking. Some were hopeful for the future. But every single story that I heard renewed my conviction that these powerful narratives needed to be shared with the rest of the world. And that conviction was the birthplace of the Digital Storytelling Project. Becoming a Queen's Young Leader has transformed the way that I think about my narrative. This award, to be very candid, was my first foray into thinking not just about my local community and the problems around me, but also how my actions at the local level can have a global impact. Being a part of an engaged group of changemakers has been an absolutely humbling and awe-inspiring experience. The Queen's Young Leaders, as you saw from the video, are doing amazing work across the Commonwealth, from human rights in South Africa, to inclusion and equality in Australia, to creative arts in Tonga, to climate change in the Seychelles. It has been absolutely transformational to realize that the work that I care about can actually intersect with so many other causes. And because of the collaborations that I've made with the Queen's Young Leaders, I'm now working with the Canadian Commonwealth Youth Council on a project called Common Story, which will connect over 2,000 young Canadians with young leaders around the world. Who are you? Where do you come from? And where do you want to go? I promise you that at the end of this summit, your answers to these questions are going to change. We are all going to be leaving the summit as One Young World ambassadors, which is actually going to change the way we define ourselves and hold us accountable to the communities we come from. We all have diverse experiences, but the new ideas that we have been exposed to and will be in the next 2 days are going to change the way that we reflect on the impact of the work that we've already done and the life experiences that we bring with us. But I think above all, we are meeting and we are going to meet other young people from around the world, which will shape and transform where we are about to go. The challenges that we are facing in the world today are increasingly complex and interrelated. But every single person in this room is already doing amazing work in the community and driving positive change. I want to take this opportunity to encourage you to have the wisdom to recognize that you can't do it all alone. Have the courage to go out there and share your individual stories, and have the conviction that if we work together, we can make this world a better place. Let's show the world what real intercultural understanding actually looks like. Let's show the world what real international collaboration can look like. And let's show the world that when we say that we belong to one young world, we really do mean that we are a united one young world. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunjan and PJ, for representing the very best of this beautiful program. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious and the most beneficent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, One Young World and the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust for this beautiful opportunity. It is of great, great honor and of great privilege to be here today among the brightest stars, the game changers, and the future leaders of the world. My name is Safia Ahmed Zahir, and I come from the Maldives. I'm a women's rights activist, and 2 years ago, I returned back home after nearly 9 years of living abroad. I always thought to myself that after completing an MSc in finance, I would work to bring innovations in the financial sector of my country. But having returned to a community where gender inequality still continues to exist in elevated levels of unequal power distribution, and being from a family of all women, I decided that it was time to fight back to bring this what I call as a centuries-long world gender crisis that our world has been living in to an end. My initial project, Women on Boards, became the first NGO in the Maldives to specifically advocate for women's economic empowerment and for the empowerment of women in decision-making and in leadership. As of today, the echoes of this project have scattered across the entire Maldives, and we have seriously encouraged both businesses and the government to consider greater female participation in economic decision-making. More than all of it, I never did this for myself. I always did this for my family, for my mother, for my sisters, for my friends, and for my entire nation, and for the whole of womankind, to let the whole world know that We refuse to be victims of a situation that leads us to question our own passion, our own talent, and the reason for our existence itself. Human capital is collectively pivotal, and it means women as well. The power of women and diversity, it unites us, it makes us stronger, and it gives us so much more means to accomplish so much more. I'm blessed, of course, to have been chosen as one of the Queen's Young Leaders for this year, one of the recipients for this award. This award is of great privilege. The Queen's Young Leaders program and Her Majesty's this program recognizes exemplary young leaders from across the Commonwealth who are leading their communities for the betterment of our future. More than a recognition, I have always found it as a unique opportunity to connect my small island nation with the rest of the world and to join hand in hand with all those who will be leading the way on women's empowerment. This program has given me a platform to connect with change agents from all over the world, and of course, to embrace diversity and to strengthen the scope of my project. The Queen's Young Leaders program has allowed me to meet with influential people, and most times they were surprised that such a beautiful nation, such a naturally beautiful nation, such as the Maldives, required advocates for women and for democracy. Some of them agreed that they will assist me in awareness-raising events while visiting the Maldives for a holiday. I'm just trying to say is that this program has made me learn that the power of collaboration, it is something spiritual. For better or for worse, if we are in the same boat, it's always easier for us to reach our desired destination together. I'm also currently setting up an NGO named Women and Democracy to increase female representation in policy and in decision-making, comprising of over 50% of the world's population. As you might be aware of, women still continue to be underrepresented as voters, elected officials, and as political leaders. A democracy cannot truly deliver to all of its citizens and to all of you if half of the world's most precious resource, our talented women, remains underrepresented in the political field. Ladies and gentlemen, may I conclude by saying that gender equality should not just be viewed as a fundamental human right, but rather a way of life and a driver of prosperity. This is exactly why it has its own place in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We might not know what the future holds for us, but let us agree that wherever we are and wherever we will be, we will create a future that invests in women, in their education, social status, health, job opportunities, and many more. A future and a world where we will be as much of decision makers for ourselves and our families as much as we will be in businesses and in governments. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Well, wow. So as Chief Executive of the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust, I do a lot of traveling to see our programs across the Commonwealth. But what always inspires me, and I think what we've seen this morning, are the people that I meet, their ambition, their vision, and their values, who are making things happen and are making a difference. So to conclude, I encourage every single one of you to try and collaborate more, to be bold, to reaching out to those beyond your own contacts, because the fresh perspectives that they can bring will help your work. And new and unexpected alliances could transform it. Your challenge here is to find those people in this room. So finally, if you're from a Commonwealth country, if you're aged 18 to 29, and if you, like PJ, Gunjan, and Safia, are doing extraordinary things in your community, you might want to think about applying to be a Queen's Young Leader. The search will be on next June for our very last set of award winners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Astrid, and the brilliant Queen's Young Leaders. Give them a huge round of applause. Thank you.
They're doing a Q&A.
Sorry? Oh, it's a Q&A, sorry. Sorry. Don't thank them yet. We'll be back. Do we have pre-selected questions?
Nope,
So we have time for some questions. Probably 3 or 4 of you, maybe 4 or 5 of you if you go quick. If you'd like to ask a question, go up to one of the podium and stand in front of the microphone and we'll call you out.
They're busy filling in application forms. Is it too early? Because you did this yesterday, no one went
Oh,
to
here
the
we go.
microphone. There we go.
Not
quickly.
for me too early.
Yay, go
Hi, good
girl.
morning, everyone. My name is Awatif Taufik. I'm from the Netherlands, originally from Morocco. And I have a question for the wonderful lady from the Maldives. You mentioned that you are working really hard against gender inequality. And I just wonder, how does that work on a day-to-day basis? Because you described your community as being a community where there are challenges when it comes to gender equality. So who works with you? Are those the elderly people that are used to having things a certain way? How are the men collaborating with you? How are you getting them to support your cause? I think that could be very inspirational to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's a very good question. Well, my project, it initially began with a lot of dynamic ladies, and I must say, at first it was a little bit difficult to really convince the men. But as time went on, people started recognizing the importance of it. And what really happened in the Maldives, interestingly, was young people started recognizing the importance of it. Young people actually acknowledged, and that was very surprising for me, because initially we were really targeting like policymakers, the government, and of course CEOs of companies. But it was very interesting how young people really started supporting this initiative. Given the Maldives is 60% of the world's, 60% of the population of the Maldives is young people, it was very surprising. It was such a strength, like when young people started supporting this initiative. And of course, I must say, as on a daily basis, we have to have a lot of patience. It really, like social work and this kind of a cause, it really requires like change of perceptions, change of thinking. So be patient, move forward, go girl power, we're gonna do this. We will do this for the rest of the world, yeah.
Great. One question there and then a final question there, so let's go.
There you go. Hi, my name's Alicia. Good job. You did awesome. I was an advisory mentor for her. I guess my question for all of you would be, during this experience, what's one of the like advice that you would have for the crowd, or what's one of the favorite things that you've learned since meeting the Queen and doing the program at Cambridge?
And then let's quickly ask that question as well, so we can just come back to the stage. So.
Hi, I'm Stephanie from South Africa. I have a very, very quick question for Gunjan. Is there a platform where we can view your storytelling videos? Thank you.
And finally, just over there, and then we'll come back to the stage for the answers.
My name is Michelle, and I have a question about how do you engage people in difficult conversations? Because that can actually change the world, and like by bringing out ideas and solutions. But most people don't want to talk about the issues like gender inequality and discrimination, and also economic inequality as well too. So how do you empower people to talk about difficult ideas like this?
Right. And final minute to wrap up with the answers.
Sure, yeah. So I think it was Stephanie from South Africa. The videos are on a website called bc211.ca. BC211 was the organization that I was partnered with in British Columbia, and they're essentially a nonprofit information and referral agency similar to 911. So all of the 7 or 9 organization videos are up there. With regards to what I learned, I think it was Alicia's question. One thing that I've learned through this award don't wait for people to give you permission to become a leader. Nobody's going to ever say to you, hey, you're a leader now, here's your opportunity. You have to actually put yourself out there, be vocal about it, and actually make yourself a leader, make yourself stand out. And sometimes, and I've actually often struggled with almost like an imposter syndrome. Am I the best person to do this? Sometimes you're the only person to do this. So go out there and grab your own leadership.
PJ, Astrid, final words?
I think for me, it's about relationship and connections, like real relationships. And I think I was the 2015 Queen's Young Leader, and 2016, I'm already looking at people that I met back then, and are still working with them. I know that those relationships will continue. So I think real connections, and then you can go on to do good things together.
Excellent. Thanks. Astrid?
Well, just, what fantastic stories, and I'm proud to be here, and just really want to thank One Young World so much for giving us this incredible platform to share more about this incredible work. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Huge round of applause for Astrid and the Queen's Young Leaders.